All right.
and just get comfortable, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I was thinking about that on the drive here. I was like, obviously, I've been seeing you on Facebook for the last few years, but
Yeah.
in person,
I pretty much during the time of years, not seeing me, I just kind of went my own way.
yeah, man.
That was during the time, what was it, 2016?
Around there, 16 or 17.
Yeah, that was when I was doing my short films and stuff.
Yep. That's how I met you.
Yep.
Well, Explore Houston.
Yeah. On this, honestly, man, I kind of wish she still did it, but I think she's going through some problems.
Yeah.
But because we haven't hanged out in such a long time, because it was just one of those weird times for me where I didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was exploring everything from left and right, and the short film, we did a short film a while back called Is She Single?
Yep.
I still have it. It's a great short film.
I was looking for it on YouTube.
It's not on it.
I didn't. Okay.
I took it off. The reason why I took it off is because I don't know. I just wanted it off the internet.
I understand and especially that was early for you. So if you weren't, maybe at that time you were happy with the end product, but fast forward to now.
Oh yeah, now I'm way much more happier.
Yeah.
Still figuring out what I want to do. So far, podcast is working.
Nice.
And it's just because I made a lot of mistakes in my early 20s, between like 20 through 25, 26. 26 was kind of like that year where it's like I was just frustrated with everything, man. And so I just stopped doing everything what I did. Stopped filming short films. Stopped doing car videos, and I just stopped all social media and everything, and just chilled.
Dial into yourself.
That's exactly what I did.
Yep.
And once I figured, how things really work. And what I mean by how things really work is just like, I guess trying to find inner peace first, and then slowly try to understand what went wrong. And from that point, I realized that I kind of relied on everybody, and my expectation was kind of being unfair. Because for one, I've always felt bad having to do projects and not paying people.
Dude, I'm on this right there with you with my photography and stuff. 99% of that's always been trade work.
Yeah.
And favors. And there's some people who love being involved and just being there. But I feel like it also put some limitations on me as far as growing as a creator, because I didn't have the budget to pay people for some of the things that I wish I could have at that time. So yeah, my photography I went from doing 75 to 100 shoots a year.
That's a lot.
To doing probably less than 10 in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that you want to do more projects, but if there's no funds to do it, there's only so much of like, hey, can you help me out? Because especially the projects I want to do, they're kind of, I felt like I was asking a lot, because it's not one of those run and gun type shooting projects. That short film, I'm surprised we was able to do that because the business was open.
Yeah.
She just gave us an okay, and we had like a 5-hour window.
Yeah, that one was interesting to me because we tried to frame people out of shots as much as we could.
Yeah.
And then people are kind of like looking at us like, what the heck are you doing? I'm just trying to enjoy my coffee and do my homework. And we're over here with the boom mic and, cameras everywhere. So that was an interesting process for sure.
Yeah. I might publish it pretty soon. I think I want to publish it again because I've actually watched it a couple of weeks back. And I was like, oh, I miss it.
Yeah.
I miss doing short films, but I'm just not a director.
I've always had a few different documentary ideas in mind, but they're so involved that they're not a short-term project.
Yeah.
And I know it's something I can't take on by myself, and while working and doing all the other things that I'm already doing, it just keeps sitting on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I hope that one day I can get around to that stuff, but it's just, I don't have the time of day right now to do it.
Yeah. Hey man, just do those mini segments, That's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Because you mentioned about paranormal activities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question.
All right.
Since you do research in paranormal activity, do you believe in ghosts? Legitimately, do you believe in ghosts?
I'm kind of on the fence, kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is unless I can see something tangible, it's hard for me to have that belief, right?
Okay.
But, and I'm going to plug Ghost Texas.
Plug
Go check out ghosttexas.com and Ghost Texas on YouTube. When we started Ghost Texas, it was originally me and 3 other friends, and we started around 2009 or so, right?
Uh-huh.
Back then we had 1 camcorder
Yeah.
and very limited equipment, right?
Yeah.
We didn't really know what we were doing, and the person that we kind of relied on to review the content and everything, it just kind of, it wasn't really going anywhere. And then after we had done a couple of investigations, one of the members passed away in a car accident.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so we just kind of stopped, and then I think it was around 2019 or maybe 2018. We were like, hey, we should get. It was just called Ghost back then, Greater Houston. I can't remember, something spirits and whatever, right, of Texas, but now it's Ghost Texas. And when we first started doing the investigations again, I was again kind of in the middle. But then once we start doing these investigations and getting results of things that we cannot explain, so it starts to pique your interest. Like, okay, is it a spirit? Is it a ghost? Is it coincidence? But when it happens over and over and over again, then you start to really question, like, okay, something's making this happen. Something's causing these responses.
What do you mean by something you can't explain?
Do you know what a spirit box is?
No.
Okay. So if you ever watch like any of the ghost shows, whether it's on YouTube or TV, and they have a speaker and it's going
Like a static?
Yeah, essentially what it is, it's almost like a mini AM/FM radio. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it scans radio frequencies. We set ours to scan in reverse, and we set it at a pace to where every time you hear repetitively, it's scanning from one frequency to another, to another, to another, to another, right?
Okay.
So the idea is that you ask questions, and if you get responses through this spirit box, that it's a spirit or something using its energy to channel a response through it. So when we're going backwards on the radio frequency, and it's changing so rapidly, if you get 2 or 3 words back to back consecutively, that shouldn't be possible. Mm-hmm. Because you're on different radio frequencies constantly. So we ask questions and then we get direct responses.
Like, what do you mean? Like, when you ask questions, is it something similar to like, is someone here, or is it,
Yeah.
or is it something like that's relatable to, I guess, the known spirit in the area?
So our first investigation was actually my own sister's house, and it was honestly, it was just going to be a test. It was a test to say, hey, how are we going to film these things? How are we going to set up the equipment? Who's going to do Q&A? Who's going to lead these things? So we did kind of like a formal interview, kind of like we're doing here on the podcast, except for it was just from a front angle, right? And then we used that to cut through the entire episode. Mm-hmm. But my sister, I have 2 nieces, and my niece started collecting these like antique clown dolls. Kind of like creepy looking clown dolls from forever, right? So she's got a whole bunch of them, and they started having some strange activity in the house right around the same time those dolls came into the house. So that was the initial theory. The episode's even called "Clowning Around" because the clowns, right? So one of the things that happened, my sister came home and there was, I can't remember what it was, something that was glass that was broken in a spot in the house that nothing should have caused that to essentially break or fall or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And then they started hearing occasionally like noises and all that. So we're like, okay, we'll just go in here and do this as a test investigation. We're probably not going to turn it into anything. Well, then we started getting these responses on the spirit box. And we're like, hold up, maybe something is going on here, right? So we don't rely solely on a spirit box. We also use EMF detector, which is detects electronically magnetic. Man, it's 6:37 in the afternoon, and it's been a long day, so my mind's going blank. But you kind of move that around. It's got a light indicator on it,
yeah,
and it's looking for energy, right? So as long as you're not up against like a wire on the wall, then there shouldn't be any movement on it. So we're honed in with probably 2 or 3 different camera angles, and we're doing Q&A with the spirit box, and just kind of freehanding with this, and then it kind of hones in. It starts spiking, and then when it starts spiking is when we also start getting responses to our questions on the spirit box.
So help me understand this. Not all responses are necessarily evil, or
no, I wouldn't think so. No.
Like not all like unknown incidents are necessarily evil.
Yeah. So I can give you a few more examples, right?
Yeah.
One of my childhood friends that I've known literally since kindergarten, she caught wind of what we were doing, and she asked us to come do an investigation at her property because her fiance had passed away. And she said ever since he passed away, that she felt like his presence was still in the household, because areas of the house that he spent time, she would find like the recliner up in a position, and it's an electronic recliner. So you have to actually sit there and hold the button down and make it rise. It's not one of those ones where if you bump it, it just pops up or something, right?
Okay.
And just a bunch of other occurrences that were happening in her property. And so we're like, yeah, sure, we can come do that, right? So we did the investigation all night long. And it starts getting closer to the midnight hour. And at that point, we really hadn't gotten much. And we're kind of like, yeah, looking like this is going to be a dud. We're not getting anywhere. Doesn't mean that her claims are inaccurate, but we're not capturing anything, right? So we slowly start collecting all the cameras. By the way, we usually have anywhere from like 20 to 25 cameras rolling all throughout the property at once. So in an effort to try to catch things from any angle, or if we're in one room and catch something and hear something from another room, we want to be able to prove that we couldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
So as we're packing up and getting ready to leave, we had a baby monitor where we had the speaker downstairs and the receiver upstairs. And we start hearing these kind of like thumping noises, right? So we're like, that's kind of strange. What is that, And so Patrick, which is my fellow investigator, he went upstairs and I stayed downstairs, and I was on the phone, and we were kind of talking back and forth, and we're like, he's walking around trying to troubleshoot where this noise is coming from, right? So short version is we figure out where the noise is coming from, and essentially the noise was coming from walking back and forth in the guest bathroom. But nobody, the entire night, no one even went in that guest bathroom. The door was even closed, right? So we're like, all right, let's go ahead and do a spirit box session. I go up there, we start doing spirit box. We're in the bathroom, get some funny responses like, I don't remember what it was, but it's like stepped in the shower and it's like, take a shower. And I was like, what? Did it really just tell me to take a shower? Like comical, right? Like what in the world? But further into the night though, we got what we believe to have been her fiance. And then also on a side note, she didn't tell us, but she had invited her fiance's father to participate as well. So he shows up and we're doing Q&A, and then somebody claims to be her fiance. So we're like, okay, well, if you're really the fiance, what are your children's names? And bam, immediately he says a name. And I didn't know the names, I didn't know anything about her fiance prior to this. And they all just basically start crying. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And they're like, that's his daughter's name.
Like the actual...
The fiance that passed away, it's the name of his daughter.
And you have that on recorded?
Yeah. It's in the episode. And so, like I'm getting chills just talking about it again. So it's just like, wow, this is crazy, right? And so the dad, just kind of like gets teary-eyed and starts asking questions. He's like, son, is that really you? And then the fiance starts asking, my friend starts asking questions, and, and they're getting questions. And they kind of broke down, went downstairs, and the dad stayed up there with us. And I said, do you want some time to speak to your dad alone? And it's like, yes, like immediately. It's like, yes. And so we're like, okay, we'll go downstairs and we'll leave you with your father. It's like, leave. And we're like, all right, we're going right now, And so we get downstairs and we just leave the dad up there probably for close to 10 minutes. And then he just comes downstairs, gives us a big hug, and he's crying. He's like, thanks, that's the closure I needed. I just had a conversation with my son through a speaker, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's interesting. So your question of whether or not things are always ill intent or evil or whatever.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I mean, I have some like stories that I said it on the podcast, but I'm gonna say it again because you're more of an expert than I am.
I wouldn't call me an expert, but we dabble.
Well, you have more knowledge than me because you actually talk to. Well, you have actual evidence of talking to them. So one of my incidents actually happened in this condo. Now, prior moving into my home, I never had an accident. Like, kind of give you a background. I don't believe in it.
Okay.
I think it's all full of baloney.
Yeah.
From my personal experience, not necessarily trying to say, hey, it doesn't exist. It's just from my personal experience. I haven't really witnessed anything that kind of says, hey, yeah, they're going to hear that.
Sorry. the Frappuccino, my bad.
But what happened was, I think it happened either this year or last year. Don't remember because I was half asleep.
Yeah.
So what happened was that it was around 3:00 at night. Go figure.
Witching hour.
Whatever. Yeah. The fire alarm went off in my condo. I thought it was the complex because usually what happened is that the fire alarm does go off at the middle of the night. Probably somebody always pulls the alarm. Well, I thought it was the complex's fire alarm, so I got up and got ready, and I opened my door. The fire alarm outside my condo wasn't going off. It was from the inside. Now I was like half asleep, like literally 3:00, half asleep. I was angry and I was annoyed. And I was like, where's this noise coming from? And I realized like, oh, it's my fire alarm. Now this sucker never goes off. It never goes off. It just happened to be that day at 3:00. Now I was frustrated. I was sleepy. I wasn't having this. And I yelled out, is there a problem? And then with my hands raised, that instant, it went off. Never happened again. That's probably like the most paranormal thing I had.
I mean, so it's like, hey, wake up, and then antagonizing you, and then you're like, call it bluff, and it's like, okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, either I'm the type of person that doesn't play with, or it's just that was just probably my best experience I have. Now, do I still believe it? I'm like, honestly, in order for me to believe it, I have to see something.
So, couple of things. So, one, I want to invite you to come along with us on one of our next investigations. I don't know how soon that will be, but we always love to have a skeptic, right?
Is it like a cemetery?
We could do a cemetery. Can
I bring a gun?
Well, even if you did see something, I don't think a gun's going to take care of it. Maybe you need a ectoplasm or whatever they used in Ghostbusters.
Something, man.
But so the episode we're editing right now, okay. This one's taking us a really long time, right? So we initially visited this location in 2019, I believe it was, in like November, December. And then actually Adolfo came. Adolfo and I don't know if you remember Mariah. Yeah, they came they came the second time. They went the first time. Sorry.
Really? Mariah wanted to do that?
Yeah, so Adolfo and Mariah joined us on the first visit. And it was a pretty good investigation, but once we started doing the editing process, I didn't feel like there was quite enough to try to take that and turn it into an episode, right?
Yeah.
So where we went to was a former jail in Cold Spring, Texas. And on the premises of that property, they also have a former schoolhouse from like the 1800s or something, right? Mm-hmm. And we never really got to do an investigation of the schoolhouse itself. But we got a few things in the jail without giving too much away because we haven't released these episodes yet. We got the voice of a child in the jail. And
did it say like, come play with me?
It said, someone help me, I'm scared.
Oh, hell no.
Literally, and you can hear it pretty clear, right? And so I told my buddy Patrick, it's like, look, man, we could roll this out as an episode, but if we really want to do something more with it, why don't we go back again? You know, we had already built up a relationship with the people who own and run the jail. So we went back last year around... God, I can't even remember. I think it was September or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe sooner. And our intention was to try to roll out the episode by Halloween of last year. Here we are in April and it's still not done. But the reason is when you have 20 plus cameras rolling for 8 hours, and on top of that, you also have maybe 6 or 8 digital microphones and recorders, you have to go through all of that content. That's like hundreds of hours of video content, right? But the second visit was way more intense, man. Like way more intense. We did what you call a silent spirit box session. And the way that works, instead of hearing that real loud on the camera, we put that onto a headphone and put a blindfold on somebody. And so they can't hear or see anything. And then the people in the room ask the questions. And then whatever you hear in the headphones, you verbalize it back.
Oh.
Right? So I can't see you or hear you. You can't influence what I'm hearing through the headphones. So you're asking questions and then I tell you what I'm hearing. We got full on blown conversations, in the schoolhouse, like back and forth. And so then going back to your question again, are they friendly or not? This got very, very intense, very like, again, I don't want to give too much away about the episode, but there was a time that I heard multiple voices in the headphones and very aggressive.
So, okay, so does something have to like pass away there in order to be kind of like...
There's a lot of theories, so they say that sometimes if someone passes away somewhere and they didn't, and it was sudden or something like that, that possibly their spirit or their energy could get trapped there until they can fulfill whatever they feel they need to move on, or maybe they don't even realize
they're trapped
or that they're passed away. This jail,
like I can understand the jail.
They did hangings and stuff.
Yeah,
there.
I can understand that, but I'm trying to figure out like, a school, like,
Yeah, so the schoolhouse, the deal with it is it's a building from the 1800s. It's a really large building, and they have half of it set up as a schoolhouse with school desks and stuff. The other half is basically anybody from the town brings any kind of old artifacts there, right? So whether that's farm tools, or it might be books, or it could be they have a whole section of like old school typewriters and stuff. So all that stuff is also in the schoolhouse. So if something could potentially be attached to an item, those items came from all over the place.
Oh, like, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Annabelle doll, there's an evil spirit attached to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably for me, outside of the spirit box stuff, the biggest clip, or the one that I'm kind of really excited about, but also really creeped me out, because when I came across it, I'm sitting at home by myself at like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm just kind of like scrubbing through all this footage, and I have a GoPro 360. And so what we did is, when we were in the jail, we put the GoPro in the schoolhouse for like 30 minutes. And then when we went to the schoolhouse, we did 2 different sessions of it in the jail in 2 different spots for like 30 minutes at a time, right? So I'm scrubbing through the footage pretty quick, because it's just static, right? And I'm going and I'm going and I'm going and I'm going. And then all of a sudden I see like this black cloud or this black mass just kind of go like this. And I was like, whoa, what the hell was that? Okay. Right? Like what was that? So did I just see something? Am I half awake? So I go back and scrub it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we have a black mass that is in a jail cell that just kind of goes through the bars and down a hallway. Nobody was in the building. It was on a second floor in a small town, so there's no cars, there's no transfer of light that would even be possible in that area of the jail. But this shadow just kind of floats through.
Like Voldemort. That's when you tell me that, I'm just thinking, I was like, who does that? I'm like, oh, that's Voldemort.
Yeah, so that one really kind of creeped me out.
I can understand that. Yeah, that would probably creep me out too.
I'm glad I saw it a month later on a camera and not, standing next to me.
So do you like have this feeling like you do these investigations, like something will be attached to you or something?
There is that fear, honestly. We always say a prayer before and after. And then we also, before leaving, specifically say, if we communicated with you, if you communicate with us, this is us telling us this is, the end of communication. You cannot come with us. You cannot follow us, whether or not that means anything, or there's, I don't know. But there is that fear, like we're dabbling in what could potentially be dangerous, and then you bring something back with you.
Yeah. And I say, I don't think I'm going to go with y'all, man. Well, the reason why I say that is because I'm all for exploring, but I don't want to contaminate other people. You know, I have to bring guests in here. I don't want something to leach on them. Well, that's cool, man. That is really cool. So let me ask you this question.
Yep.
Because I've always asked people this question, and I'm always surprised on their response. And we watched the movie on your horror night.
Yeah.
The Candyman.
Yes.
Do you know where that came from?
Well, I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay, but
so that Candyman and the supposed Candyman of Houston are two different Candyman.
Correct.
Stories.
Okay, correct. So, so you are correct.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about that. It's a strange thing where, you know, when you say, "Hey, do you know about the Candyman?" Mm-hmm. A lot of people refer to the movie. Great movie, by the way. I love it.
It's one of my favorites, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's brutal. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, so raw. That's what I love about it. But, you know, everyone thinks about the movie. But not a lot of people realize that in Houston, Texas, there was a serial killer called the Candyman.
Yep.
And he did give candies to little kids.
Yep.
And the parents' store was in the Heights.
It wasn't too far from my old house.
Yeah.
And actually where all the bodies in the boathouse was out 59, like not far from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Pasadena, right?
No. It's more. I believe it's more towards Sugar Land direction on 59.
Oh damn.
I know a lot about it because me and Patrick have been researching it, and I told you documentaries.
Yeah.
That's one we want to do.
Oh, you should do it, man.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's still in prison, I believe, in Galveston or Huntsville. I can't remember which.
Who?
The killer.
I thought he died.
No, well, okay, so what he would do is he had the kid was about 14, 15 years old.
Oh, you're talking about The Apprentice.
Yeah, and so he would give him drugs to come lure in his friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's who he would molest and end up ultimately killing.
Yeah.
But somewhere down the line, that kid kind of fell for, I think, one of the girls. And so he kind of started to think, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This is like messed up. And he killed the Candyman.
Yeah, he shot him.
Yeah, but that guy is still in prison.
Yeah. That you know what? If you guys do that, I would love to watch that documentary.
Yeah, there's that one. And are you familiar with the Killing Fields? Down on 45 South?
I've heard about the 45, but
yes.
I'm trying to figure out going towards Galveston.
Yeah, so it'd be on the west side of 45 South.
You know what's funny about that? Someone told me about. So I was at me and my girlfriend likes to go look at old antique stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's a building off of I-10 that I met a guy. He was talking about that.
Yeah,
because he's into horror and stuff. He was like, "Did you know that the 45 is like the most deadliest highway or something like that?"
Yeah,
and that's what he told me.
There's here's what's funny about it. When we started researching it, the area was, I believe, it was an oil field, right? So they had this huge plot of land, but the actual structure was set back real far from the road, and all the area closer to the road was just fields, grass, right? Now they're taking that entire area and developing it into residence. So when we started doing the research, I found a few old pictures of that corner prior to the redevelopment, and they changed the street name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they changed the street name now that was associated to it. Because I remember I was like looking on Google Maps, I was looking at all this research, and I'm like, why can't I find this anywhere? So I started looking until I was like literally on satellite view, street view, going street by street by street until I found the spot, and I found one picture on Google Maps that was the old, and then as soon as you slide up to the next one, it's the new. And I was able to match that to the picture from the articles.
So give me a little bit of background. They call it the killing field?
Yeah, it was a guy, basically he would take women there and rape them and murder them and just leave them in that field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was, I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s or somewhere around then.
The late 80s, early 90s was a fucked up era, man.
Well, you think about it, right? Nowadays, you've got a camera everywhere. right? You've got GPS everywhere. You've got eyes everywhere. Back then, you go down a dead end road, there's no trace you were there. You didn't have a phone that would show you were in a specific area. There's not cameras on ATM machines and gas pumps and corner stores.
That's true.
You know, so it was probably much easier to get away with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It just makes me think, like, you know, what others that hasn't really been discovered.
Yeah. I live on ID Channel and Oxygen, which is all the true crime stuff. And I don't want to sound morbid or anything like that. I don't have like an obsession with serial killers or anything like that, but I do find it interesting. And I consume a lot of that content.
Yeah, Houston definitely has a lot of history, not necessarily with murders, but just things that happened in the past that you ask questions.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, I'm not going to say it on the podcast on one of them because it's a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you off podcast because it'll blow your mind. I'm like, what the fuck?
Now you got me wondering. You know the jail that we did in Cold Spring.
Okay.
There's actually a documentary about that because Humpy, the Sheriff Humpy, was corrupt, and they were in cahoots with drug runners, and they would pull over people on 59 for no reason and basically throw them in jail and hold them hostage for money. And there's stories of them waterboarding prisoners, and some of them actually passed away. And people who just literally disappeared, and it's right by Lake Livingston. And so the story or the theory that's been told is that they were basically dumping bodies in the lake. And so that's the jail we investigated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We didn't even know about that initially. You know, we were just like looking for places that we could do investigations, like legit investigations, not sneaking in places and trespassing. Like, hey, can we have permission to come here and do an investigation? You know.
Yeah. So how do you get permission for something like that?
So this is it's a jail that's no longer active, and it's technically registered as a museum. Mm-hmm. We just emailed them and said, hey, we're a paranormal investigation team. Here's some of our videos. We'd like to come out and do an investigation. Is that something you're willing to do? They gave us I don't remember if it was $200-300 we had to pay or something like that. And it's technically a donation to the.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So we're like, yeah, no big deal. And did the investigation. So we've got a long list of places we want to go. Our biggest obstacle right now is turning the episodes quicker.
Oh yeah.
It's a process. And actually, matter of fact, we're meeting with somebody tomorrow that wants to come on board to the team and see if she'll be a good fit, because right now I'm the one that does all the hands-on editing. I get input from the team, and we reference our spreadsheets from all the stuff we review, but I do all the actual editing, and you know how editing goes. It's time consuming. Yeah. Yep. And I'm a perfectionist, so it's like, yeah, there might be some stuff occasionally on my videos that aren't perfect, but I try to make them as perfect as I can. Yeah.
So, what is the most haunted? Do you know the most haunted place in Houston, or do you?
Well, there's claims that Spaghetti Warehouse is on the list, which Spaghetti Warehouse itself no longer exists. After the last flood we had, that building got gutted and converted into like commercial space now. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we never got to do an investigation there.
So when I guess an old building that had a history of was it paranormal? Mm-hmm. Once you gut it, is it all gone, or is it?
I don't know. You know, it would be cool if we could do an investigation there. I don't even know if the building is officially reopened yet. I think whatever they were doing there is now done. Yeah. But with COVID and stuff, we haven't really been down there in a while. Another cool spot that's 2 blocks from there. Do you know what Donnellan Crypt is?
No.
Okay, so we've tried to do 2 investigations there, but it's kind of tough because it's a very public area. It's under a bridge, so it's lots of noise from cars and everything. Franklin and God, I can't think of it. There's a building there that's called the Magnolia Ballroom. Okay. And in the wall, there's a little cutout, and that is the Donnellan Crypt. And what it was is they started doing construction and widening the bayou and all that, and they broke into the floor or wall or something like. I don't remember exactly how it was discovered, but they found a tomb. of a family, the Donnellan family, that was buried there. And so they've since relocated the bodies and everything to an actual cemetery. But part of the story goes that I think it was a husband, wife, and a child. And the child, I think, drowned in the bayou there. Mm-hmm. But this is like in the 1900s, early 1900s or something like that, or maybe late 1800s. But yeah, most people don't know that exists. The Donnellan Crypt. It's a tomb, former tomb.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was one of the times you were with us for Explore Houston and we were in downtown, but we walked right by it. You know, like the biking, jogging trails that go connect everywhere through along the bayous and all that.
Yeah, where you see the downtown area scene.
Yeah. So one of those bike paths, walking paths, goes right down at the bottom of the building, and it's on our website. We haven't released anything video content wise, just because we haven't gotten anything. Mm-hmm. But we want to go back there again.
So it's just like a big square.
It's not a square. It is
it's like a plaque. That's plaque there. That's saying.
I don't even think there's a plaque. It's. Imagine if there was formerly like a doorway or a tunnel or something, right? Mm-hmm. And then they just half of that, half of this is showing now. So it's just kind of like a little cutout where something used to be, and then there's a new wall kind of partially in front of it.
So why did they leave that there?
Maybe out of respect of the family. I don't really know.
I thought you can't move. I thought you can't like move bodies or anything.
They try to avoid it as much as possible, but there's been times they've relocated full cemeteries.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. I do know that after a century, you can technically. I mean, it's been longer than a century actually. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah, I know. After a century, you can technically remove the body.
Yeah.
But I thought from a historic standpoint, you have to leave it there because like in Egypt, once you discover a tomb, that's considered.
Yeah, I've always thought that was weird how they exhume these really old bodies from the pyramids and things like that. I'm like, leave them alone. I mean, I understand they're doing it from a scientific aspect, but at the same time, it's. I actually kind of joked about it when COVID first started because they had just recently, like a couple weeks before all that happened, they're like, "Oh, we just found this tomb and we opened the casket," and then there was reports that said that some. Doctors and things were saying, "Oh, we shouldn't probably open it. There's a risk," you know. And I'm like, "Yeah, what if there was some messed up disease that's like locked in there, and then they open it and just."
No, that is not how it works.
Totally kidding about it though. Not saying that that's what COVID was, but the timing of it all was like back then. I was just like, they shouldn't have opened that tomb.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, but no, that can happen like in Antarctica, frozen in time, but you know, in the desert.
Yeah, because the DNA and everything's still intact.
Yeah, I mean they found bodies on top of Mount Everest. Yeah, people that weren't able to come back down. Whatever happened up there, they're frozen solid.
Yeah, that they say when you explore Mount Everest, it's at your own risk. If you die, that there's nothing in place that says they have to come and reclaim your body because it's so dangerous to do so that. By trying to reclaim somebody's body, they themselves could essentially, die themselves. So.
Yeah, when you look at the amount of money you have to pay in order to hike Mount Everest, I'm like, come on, bro.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. I think the cheapest price to do this like up to $25,000.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's like I'll pass on that. I'll watch it I'll look at Google.
Yep.
Do my Google exploring. That's how I've been doing my traveling.
Talking about traveling, so 2019, May of 2019.
Yeah.
You said you took your time to kind of like step back and find out what you wanted to do and everything. I've always wanted to travel more. And I always had the idea of like, and wait, since my early 20s, I was like, yeah, I bet you I could, go travel and I could turn this into like an event. This is before social media and all this stuff was what it was. And the idea of getting sponsors and seeing all 50 states and all that. But I never really did it because I was always tied to a job or something else. And so 2019, I started running the numbers and I was like, if I sold my house and I got rid of like the bulk of my stuff, I could afford to go get an RV and travel full time and work remotely. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so I sold everything in January, bought my RV, bought my truck, and COVID happened. And so
It would still have been a perfect time to still travel.
yes and no, because I ended up getting laid off.
Oh,
And so the little bit of money I had was just barely getting by. Um, so fast forward to now, and my RV is still sitting in the same spot. Never had a chance to take it out a single time yet. Um, and I'm back in the workforce again, and where I'm at right now, there's not going to be the opportunity to do the traveling. So I'm like, it sucks to say this, but literally 2-3 nights ago, I came to the realization that I'm probably just going to have to shelf that for a few years and sell my RV and truck and just go back to normal home ownership and probably buy a house. But this time now, it's my house is going to be my studio. You saw my old house. It was like my photo studio, but like I really want to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
I want a podcast room. I want a full photo studio room. I want to be able to designate about half the house for studio and photography and creativity and half of it for living.
That's a smart idea because prices for these studios, just for the basic studios that these co-op office that's supposed to help people.
Yeah.
They're just as expensive as just getting you a basic room in the ghetto.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at these prices like, where's the part where you're supposed to help me?
Yeah.
If you're paying as much as for, a bigger studio where you get more at the same price. So, but if you want to, build a studio within your home, that is probably the smartest idea anyone can do.
Yeah.
Because for one, it's tax advantage. You can.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, you can write certain things off. You can write your internet off. You can write off your office space as by the square footage.
Yep. And you don't even have to go far.
Yeah.
It's at home.
That's the thing I like about it most, because when I did my photo shoots, sometimes people would be like, "Wait, your studio's at a house?" I'm like, "It's at a house, but I promise you, it's a full studio setup." And I had already preset after a while of getting that question, like 20, 30 photos that I'd be like, "Here's what the studio looks like." Mm-hmm. If you have any concerns about coming to shoot here, here's a list of people I've shot with. Go message them on Facebook. And so I would break that barrier down as fast as possible. But for me, it'd be like, okay, I just did a shoot, and here we are, maybe it was a half day or a full day shoot. If I was to have an office space, I'd probably be like, all right, shut down shop and go home, and then not even look at the stuff for a day or two, right?
Yeah.
But being at the house after they leave, first thing I did was I was just in there like scrolling through all the photos, start picking out favorites. Sometimes I would even get into editing like immediately. It's just more convenient.
Oh yeah.
And I feel safer having my equipment with me.
That's a fact, man. Because there are some sketchy places. You
Yeah.
know, no matter how much security you put in there, somehow, some way, if someone knows you have some really nice equipment,
Yep.
they'll stalk you. But yeah, that's possibly the best advice I can give someone. Is you have room in your personal house that you're looking to do a studio, do it, because it's in the longer run, it'll save you a hell of a lot more money.
And for me, I just more productive.
Oh yeah.
And if I have an idea of something, like say it's like a vlog or whatever, it's a video, right? I don't have to be like, okay, well, I'll work on that tomorrow. No, I don't care. If it's 4:00 in the morning, I can just go in there and film it right there on the spot. I don't have to think about it. Just go in there and knock it out.
Absolutely. And if you have money to blow, buy it. Do not rent it.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm looking at buying again.
Yeah.
So
what I'm saying is like, it's like, oh, if everything's going well and you have pretty much you have one of your CPA saying, hey, you have over $200,000, you need to spend it. Buy you a studio.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's something you own. So
yeah, and you have the equity, and you can always cash it out.
Yeah, we'll rent it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. That's cool. So what kind of horror films you been watching lately? Because I know you're really into horror films.
I kind of had a feeling you might ask me this, and so I started trying to think about it. And the thing that's kind of funny is, while I'm editing or while I'm working or doing other things, I'm also watching content, right?
Yeah.
And with COVID over the last year, I watched a lot of stuff. So literally just about anything you can imagine that's available via Shudder, Netflix, Hulu, Sling TV, HBO Max, wherever it is, I've probably watched it.
Yeah.
So it's like specific titles though.
You know, the one thing I kind of appreciate the most, I've been late to the game, Hellraiser.
I like Hellraiser.
The first two.
Yeah, because they got kind of hokey a little deeper
Very
into
corny,
them.
yeah.
But early Hellraiser was really cool.
Oh yeah. I was like, man, they've done it so. I was like, what happened in this era where scary movie content like that kind of just what made it great? Because you know, when you look at today's standard, because I'm thinking like, you know, Hellraiser budget at the beginning, the first one, it wasn't that high.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm trying to compare, like, what did they do different versus today?
One of the things I don't like is the overuse of CGI these days.
All right.
You see it more in your action films, but I like the old school, like, fake bodies or whatever that, you know, you can tell it's sometimes fake, but that's kind of what makes it like, I don't know, but versus like a full CGI blood splatter. Mm-hmm. I'd rather see them hit something that splatters like fake blood everywhere than a bunch of CGI blood. I know it sounds kind of weird, but
yeah.
So that's one thing I like. I feel like this day and age too, in movies overall, it's really hard to come out with an original idea, and that's why we keep seeing rehashes of
I don't know,
old movies. You know, it's like you see the same movie over and over and over and over again.
You got into those Korean horror films?
Sometimes,
dude, they're savage.
Yeah, the only reason I don't watch as many of them is if all I was doing was dedicating my time solely to the TV, I'll watch them all day long. I don't care about subtitles, no big deal. Yeah. But when I'm multitasking, it's tough because you can't really follow the story unless you can be glued to it and read the whole thing all along.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of some specific movie titles because I just watched something last week that kind of intrigued me, and it was a kind of a different story. But I can't even think which one it is. That's the other thing that's funny is sometimes I'll sit and look through the movie catalog and be like, oh, I don't think I've seen this one. And then I'll go put it on 3-4 minutes in. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this one. I already watched this one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like the one, I've been watching the ones that the movies that kind of freaked me out as a child.
Yeah.
Like for example, Child's Play.
Oh, that one got you?
As a child, it did, because, you know, I'm very young and vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I watched it and I was like, man, this is stupid.
You're going to laugh at it, right? When I was a kid, the two that probably, stayed with me the longest or really kind of got me somewhat was the original Exorcist.
It's funny.
Yeah. Now, but back then... I'm older than you, so back then, you don't have the HD quality. This is like bubble screen TVs, and then and another one that's now kind of comical, but Poltergeist, and specifically the scene where the clown doll is like stalking the little boy from under the bed, and it would like kind of laugh, that doll, man. But other than that, they don't really scare me. I always kind of say a movie is good if it can actually make me jump or fool me. And I'd say in the last decade or so, probably the first movie that fooled me in forever, and I figured it out about halfway in, was Saw.
The first one?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because about halfway in, I started thinking, I wonder if that guy's really dead,
Oh, okay, yeah. You're trying to solve the video.
Yeah. So at the end, when he kind of like stands up, and I'm like, oh, I knew it, But like an interesting twist in the movie. In almost every movie now, like I can literally predict the movie. I can even sometimes predict the lines they're about to say because it's just so cookie cutter and stereotypical that it's just like, oh my God, there's no creativity here.
Yeah. What about The Collector? You seen The Collector?
I like that, and actually, I think they're working on a third one right now.
Yeah, The Collector, the first one was very good.
Yeah.
Second one was kind of...
I think the second one was called The Collection.
Collections, yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one, I can't remember. I think it's in production right now, or it's been in production or talked about being in production for a while. One
movie I kind of wish they further expand the universe for was Jeepers Creepers.
I was just about to talk about Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, because the first one was amazing.
Yes.
Second one was, in my opinion, was just as good.
Yep.
The third one was corny.
I was so disappointed in the third one because like they kept doing teasers about the third one, like they were trying to work on it for years.
Yeah.
And so when it finally came out, I was like, I can't remember if I had to buy it on digital streaming or hard copy. I can't remember, but the only way I could watch it was I had to buy it. And I was like, I don't care, I'm gonna buy it. I love part 1 and 2. And then I watched it and I was like, it's kind of whack, man. And I think it was not the same directors and team that did part 1 and 2.
Yeah, it kind of threw in that, I want to say corny vibe to it, because the first one had that really creepy,
more serious tone.
Yeah, and the second one, it was less like, how would I say, you kind of got used to the creeper.
Yeah.
And you was more used to seeing him, but he was still, the mystery was still there.
I like the comic relief in the part 2 just a little bit. He reminded me a little bit of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. And the third one was kind of like,
just cheesy.
Yeah, it just felt cheesy. It just didn't feel creepy. It didn't feel scary.
Yeah.
And I wish they kind of, because I like what they did was it's like 1, 3, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1, 3, 2, where like the layout they did was fine, but I just felt like they should have kept the creepy vibe on the first one, where he was kind of more of a little bit more of a mystery.
I think one thing they kind of shot themselves in the foot with on that is that the time span of how often he's supposed to come out. So what was it, 27th day of the 23rd, something like that, right? Yeah. So now you're putting a 23, 25 year span between when the next one could take place. So that's why all of them are kind of like you said, 1, 3, 2. Because then if they wanted to try to do another one, what are they going to do? Fast forward into the future, or are we going to go way back in time?
No, they should do it exactly where it stopped from the second one.
But he was already basically getting ready to be entombed again or whatever, and locked up for another 23 years or what have you.
Yeah. Okay. So like so the third one happened exactly after the first one ended, where they have like, the police scene and everything, and going back to the, what is it called? A House of Pain or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how the second one ended is when he ended his feeding cycle. Yeah. And I guess what?
The old man had him on the wall at the bar.
Yeah. And then I think 2 or 3 days later, he awakens and, all hell breaks loose again. Yeah. So, I think if they do, hopefully they do, I pray, they do the fourth one. I don't think it will happen, but they should start it from there. Yeah. I was like, well, oh, where the fuck am I?
They could go super, decades back prequel too.
I would love to see that, because I want to see what that lady saw when she got grabbed by the hand. Yeah. That was one of the things in the third video, where missing parts from the creeper shows its past. Yeah. And they didn't really show it.
I think if they went way back, what would be interesting is seeing him building that underground tunnel with the House of Pain. Yeah, the House of Pain. Yeah. That could be an interesting take.
Oh yeah, especially the legend they said on the first one. Yep.
Not completely a horror movie, but I just saw that Rob Zombie is gonna do the Addams Family again, the TV show.
He's the guy to do it.
Or is it the Munsters? It's one of the two.
He's the guy to do it. Yeah. He has that. He knows horror.
Yeah, I like his House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects and that series. I mean, it's kind of semi copycat of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which one?
That whole series, the Devil's Rejects and
no. Which version
of Texas Chainsaw? Yeah, I would say more the original, the one from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. Not complete copycat, but the concept of it being like all these people in a small town and kind of just doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. Devil's Rejects kind of had that same feel, like that same era. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I think the Devil Rejects I loved. House of a Thousand Corpses kind of had to grow on me a little bit, because I watched it when I was young, and I rewatched it a couple of times. I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. It's a great video. I love it. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I say the best one was what was it, 2000?
The one with Jessica Biel?
Is that what her name is? The one from Seven Heaven or something like that? The 7th?
Yeah. So there was that one, and then the follow up to it with Jordana Brewster. Those for remakes of a movie, I think both of those they did a great job.
Yeah. The first remake was good because I bought the. This is back when they started. DVDs were a thing.
Yeah.
You know, they had a kind of like a case file and like all the photos and everything. I was like, oh, this is cool. I mean, I was a teenager. I was kind of a little creepy.
Dude, my DVD Blu-ray collection's ridiculous. I probably got over 1,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though, after the original movie, there's actually a part 2 and 3, which were pretty poor production, pretty cheesy. But Matthew McConaughey's in one of those.
Is he?
Before he was very well known. And if you watch it, it's kind of like, what the heck is he doing in this movie?
Good old Texas boy right there.
Yeah, you know. But, okay, so you were asking if I knew about the Candyman.
Yeah.
Do you know what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is actually based off of? What it's really based off of?
Yes. I think I do.
Okay.
Basically, it was a guy who loved his mother. He was messed up in the head, and he had this like weird fetish of dead people or something like that. And he would either dig up the grave, or he would make some kind of like bone scriptures out of.
Do you know what other movies are based on the same guy?
No.
Psycho.
Really?
Yes. So the story is not even a story of Texas. It's from a northern state. I can't remember which one, but a guy by the name of Ed Gein or Ed Gein. It's Gein.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's based off of him. And there's 2 or 3 different, or maybe even 4 different movies that are all loosely based off of Ed Gein.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I think. Okay, so maybe think there's Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just had the other one on my mind and I already forgot it. But yeah, there's like 4 different movies that are all based on the same guy.
Really?
Yeah, he actually when they caught him, he had furniture, chairs, all sorts of stuff made from human bone. And I think no, not Jason. It's not Jason. God, I'm trying to think of what the other one is. It's another one that's like a well-known movie. But yeah, that guy was a
what time frame? What's the time frame of the movie?
Probably 80s.
Yeah, I don't know.
It'll hit me. It'll probably hit me right when I'm going to bed at night, and it's like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, horror genre these days, there's still some good stuff out there. But I really like one of my favorite ones, and it's super cheesy, is Evil Dead.
Evil Dead.
The original Evil Dead.
Is that the guy with the chainsaw and the...
Yes.
Yeah.
So they did a spinoff of it a year or 2 ago. It's a TV series called Ash vs. Evil.
On Netflix.
I think it may have been a Hulu possibly, or Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. And it picks up where the movies left off. So there's the Evil Dead, and then there's Army of Darkness, and then Evil Dead 2. And then there's actually some super low budget ones. I think it got all the way up to like Evil Dead 5, but I think the last one I was familiar with was Evil Dead 2. Then they did a remake of Evil Dead in like 2005 or 2009 or something, which was a pretty good remake. But what I liked about the original is that it was so like cheesy and corny. There were even parts where like there's like a body or something flailing around, and you can see like the line for the rubber mask. Like on this, like it's so poorly done, but it made it like that much more authentic of an 80s horror movie, you know?
Yeah, that's what makes it great about it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, when you watch it when was the first time, how old were you when you first watched it?
Oh, when I watched that?
Yeah.
Probably like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, you see, you know, you don't think about that. You know?
Yeah.
It's like almost like, oh my God, the thing's creepy. That's the thing when, you know, that's what I've been doing recently. Like all the movies that I watched when I was a kid that scared the crap out of me. You know, The Exorcist. Yeah. The first one. I was like, let me watch it, see how creepy it is.
And then you're laughing.
I'm laughing the whole way. I was like, this shit is dumb.
Yeah.
That one, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
You watched that one? I was like, oh, this is so dumb.
Some of those now, like I have a hard time even watching them because I'm like, oh my God, this is so terrible. Like, like this was the peak of entertainment, you know, and we thought it was good.
Yeah.
You know, some of the ones that really actually, before I say which ones disappointed me, and it's not horror genre, are there some movies that you grew up with and then had a long time lapse and then watched them again and you're just kind of disappointed with them?
The Shining.
That's actually one of my all-time favorite movies.
I was disappointed.
Have you heard the theory that it's based on pedophilia?
No, I haven't. But I was told that there's so many theories behind that video. You know, there's certain scenes, you know, have certain certain meanings and stuff.
There's a video somewhere on YouTube of somebody that kind of does that breaks it all down and why they believe it was based on pedophilia. I don't personally think it was based on pedophilia, but I could see where they're trying to connect those dots. But have you watched Dr. Sleep?
No, but pause that idea. That's the reason why the director for Jeepers Creepers Creed didn't happen. Wasn't there? He's in jail.
Oh, really?
Because of pedophilia.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Creeper. No pun intended.
Yeah, I found out that a while back, and I did not remember that. I was like, oh, no wonder it's trash right now.
Yeah. So I watched Dr. Sleep last year, and what Dr. Sleep is the boy from The Shining in present day.
Okay.
And he's an adult. And
okay, yeah. So Dr. Sleep is the second wave.
It's like, yeah, but it's like, you know, it's 30, 40 years later. He's an adult now.
Yeah.
You know? And I didn't really like it. Like, I liked how it started, but then it went kind of corny, in my opinion. And it should have just been a standalone movie that wasn't tied to The Shining at all, because what they take and correlate The Shining and the meaning of The Shining and what it is, it just totally didn't fit, in my opinion, with the original film, and it went very far off from what the original Shining was, and I don't know, it just made it cheesy.
Yeah.
But movies that I was kind of disappointed in, I grew up with Star Wars.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can barely watch a Star Wars movie these days.
The old ones?
Or the new ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love them.
I love the pop culture.
Yeah.
Around Star Wars, I love seeing all the shirts and all that kind of stuff, right? But the movies themselves, I don't know. I think I've grown more critical than I used to be. I can appreciate the effort that goes into them, but I think what happens, the storylines are so weak because they're so overly obsessed with the CGI and the technology, and like, that they're just kind of lame. Like when I think part 7 came out.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was 7 or 8. I could predict the whole thing, like, and it was almost an exact copycat of part 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, wait, so it took like a whole movie for Luke to learn how to use the lightsaber, but it took, what's her name, Ren or whatever? Ray? 5 minutes to learn how to use a lightsaber. You know, it's like it took her 5 minutes to find her power, and it's just I don't know.
So that's one thing that I learned through streaming through HBO. Now, what I learned is that this kind of goes in with the Zack Snyder Justice League. Have you watched a 4-hour cut?
I've not watched it yet, just because it's so long. It's like I heard that it's much better.
Yes,
but I just haven't had the time to watch it.
Yes, so watching that video made me realize that these 2.5-hour videos can't do it anymore. You know, because especially with movies like Star Wars, you know, that had such great potential and probably with such rich storylines that it's kind of hard to explain in depth.
Yeah, like,
you know, a newer character or just like, you know, the becoming of a Sith Lord, or just whatever their plan is. It's getting to a point where, you know, what HBO's done with the Zack Snyder cut of 4 hours, that was able to allow me to see exactly like, oh, what are the roles for each person? Like, you know, the
more of a backstory on everybody.
Exactly. Like, you know, the first release of the Justice League, Cyborg and Flash didn't really have a role in it. They were just like characters that were in there. But in the newer Justice League, can I spoil alert this?
I don't care because I don't really watch them. So.
Spoiler alert. You know, Cyborg was a key component.
Okay.
You felt for the guy. You was like, oh man. And the first version in 2017 release, he was just a cyborg. He didn't really show his true character. And in the Zack Snyder Justice League, you feel sorry for Steppenwolf. You actually feel sorry for the villain because he just wants to go home.
You can empathize with him, yeah.
Yeah. So and that's what I realized. Like, 4 hours to explain a complex video like that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And and I'm willing to pay an extra $10 to sit in the movie theaters to watch a 4-hour flick.
Yeah.
Because giving the director the advantage to fully explain his idea should be allowed. You know? Just imagine a 4-hour Jeepers Creepers video.
Yeah, with more of a backstory.
The first version.
The Marvel universe, right?
Yeah.
When the Marvel universe kind of started, was back, I guess around like Iron Man days possibly or something like that. I wasn't a huge comic book person. I had a few comic books growing up and stuff, but
neither am I.
I didn't realize how intertwined all of Marvel was, right? I thought it was just a bunch of comic books and they're just kind of like their own solo comic books. I didn't know that they all kind of like lived in the same universe. And I actually even did a blog like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's like what order you should watch the Marvel stuff in. And when I started to realize that like all these Netflix spinoffs and there was all these shows on ABC and then there's some that were on HOU and they're all part of the same time era of Marvel and everything kind of coincides with one another. And I thought that was kind of intriguing. And I really enjoyed the Netflix originals with Marvel. And so I was disappointed when Disney bought Hulu and then they decided that they were going to do Disney Plus and then that they weren't going to move forward anymore with the Netflix issued Marvel series, because I really liked Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Punisher, Daredevil. Like in previous Daredevil type movies and stuff, I always thought Daredevil was like super cheesy, but this showed Daredevil in another light,
with the Ben
Affleck.
You know what? I'm gonna say this now. I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but Ben Affleck is the best Batman.
Is he really?
Oh, he is amazing.
So I don't think I've even watched that yet.
Watch the Zack Snyder cut.
And my favorite Batman used to be in the 90s, like God, what was the one?
Batman and Robin?
No, like 92. But before that one, when Shining was the Joker.
I know who you're talking about. What's his name?
Was it Michael Keaton? Was Batman? I think
the same man that was on The Shining.
Yeah. One of my favorite actors, Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
You almost had me say Nicolas Cage.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorites, and I think it was because prior to that, the only Batman I had been exposed to was the corny '60s TV show.
Yeah, it's very corny.
Yeah, and so then when Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson Batman came about, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool, you know. And I was probably in. I'm gonna show my age here. I think I was in like junior high, maybe high school when that came out.
He was a young buck.
Yeah. So that one always kind of sat with me. That one, and there was a sequel to that with Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Mm-hmm. But then the one that kind of followed that, it got a little cheesy, where Clooney and I think maybe Chris O'Donnell, Batman and Robin.
The Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Carrey was the question
Riddle.
Yeah, those they got a little cheesy.
Yeah. The Riddler was with what's his name? Two-Face.
Yeah. On the one with Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great series for
No.
Batman.
Because there was another one, Batman and Robin. That one it was just Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then the other one was some other Batman video it was Two-Face and the Riddler.
Yeah, they had like 2 or 3 villains in one movie thing, I think.
Yeah, you can't overstep Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
he's one of the stars. But in the Zack Snyder cut, if you watched Batman versus Superman,
I think I may have seen that one.
Mm-hmm. The Ultimate Edition. Then watch the Zack Snyder cut.
Okay.
Then you'll see. I was like, oh, to me, he
puts more into perspective.
Yeah, you kind of see it. Like, oh, he's a really good Batman.
Yeah.
And then now when Jared Leto was the Joker,
I didn't care for him
as
the Joker.
Was it Heath Ledger? Heath Ledger and the Christopher Nolan Joker?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job of that version of the Joker. But the Jared Leto Joker, now I know in the Suicide Squad, it was kind of cheesy.
I still haven't even watched Suicide Squad.
Oh man, you're so behind.
It's not that I'm behind. It's because
there's no interest.
I just think they just looked bad. Like I heard that the trailer was better than the movie.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah. And then I watched Birds of Prey, and it was terrible.
Yeah. So I haven't watched Birds of Prey.
Yeah, it was, and I love Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
Robbie. She's like one of my favorite actresses. And that movie was just, I only watched it because it was her, and I was like, I think she directed it or had some kind of extra influence on the movie aside from just acting. So I was like, I'm gonna do her the favor and finish the movie. I'm not gonna be like, they go look at their statistics and they're like, oh, everybody stops watching halfway through, so I was like, but I didn't, it was just terrible. It sucked.
So what happened in the Suicide Squad, they kind of cut them out. So the scenes you only see them in were more likely the corny scenes.
Yeah.
But you'll see some clips where you see that insanity of the Joker character in them. And it's like, oh, it makes sense because he can pull it off. He can pull off this little freaky, weird, crazy individual. Then Zack Snyder was in the Snyder cut. Zack Snyder towards the end kind of showed us the nightmare scene where he really does put this Joker character in scene and into play really well. Where there was like a minute that was cut out from the 4-hour video. I was like, come on, man, why would you cut out a minute?
Yeah.
Shows this nightmare scene of Jared Leto being the Joker again. It just shows that crazy insanity type of character where he's like, he does not give a fuck.
Jared Leto is actually another one of my favorite actors, and there was a lot of talk about why some of the scenes were cut and stuff. And
I think it was just politics.
Well, some of what I was told was that he became so obsessed with the character of the Joker that even off camera and off set, he was still kind of living as the Joker.
Which is cool.
Yeah, but he just became so overly involved, and I think that's where he was also very disappointed because he put so much effort into the role, and then the final cut was so little of him actually in it.
Yeah.
What did you think about Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker? That movie for me, it was interesting, but I mean,
for what it was, I appreciate it. Joaquin Phoenix, he did great acting. He deserved the award for what he got. Was an Oscar?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, he well deserved. But I've only watched it one time.
I only watched it once, and then when it ended, the way it ended, I was just like,
yeah,
this was a really drawn out movie.
I think it was more overhyped than really. It's a great movie if you watch it the first time. Mm-hmm. It's not a movie. It's not the type of movie I will watch again. And it's been on HBO for quite some time, and have yet to I want to watch it. I was like, no.
I like I think it's Hulu. I stream from so many different places. I can't always remember where I'm watching stuff. But a lot of the South by Southwest film. And it'll be like, oh, this is from South by Southwest 2016, or this is South by Southwest 2018, and they're not necessarily horror. I can't remember what all the genres are, but I love those is because they don't have all that hype behind them. You don't have all these expectations of what the movie's going to be. What I'll do is if it's a streaming service that has a movie trailer available to watch, I'll watch about 30 seconds to 1 minute of the trailer. And if I like it enough, I stop because I don't want it to give too much away.
Okay.
I want to discover what's going to happen in the movie while I'm watching it. I don't want to see half the movie in a 3-minute trailer. And often what will happen is I end up enjoying a lot of those movies much more than the big box office movies. Big box office movies are like, let's say it's an action movie. We got to have all the action scenes. We got to have just the right amount of sexy scenes of the chicks. We got to have just the right amount of mix of that. Like I watched the other day for the first time the spinoff from Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw.
I still haven't watched that yet.
Don't waste your time, man. It's just it's just so corny. If you want to just say, I just want to watch an action movie with a bunch of stuff that could never actually really happen or come anywhere close to being realistic, and I just want to see a bunch of action and shooting, and watch it. But if you want to have the belief that it's actually tied to original Fast and the Furious Part 1 and 2, where
they should have stopped at 3, honestly.
Yeah, man. I haven't even watched, I think the last one I watched from Fast and Furious was the last one that Paul Walker was in, where his brother even had to finish out the closing scene. I think 1 or 2 have come out since then. I haven't even watched them because I'm just like,
7, it was Fast 7. And
it just gets too corny, man. And it's like, yeah, I can appreciate the cars and I can appreciate the chase scenes and all that. But they just go too over the top. You're in Dubai and you're driving out of a building and flying through the air and crashing back into the inside of another building, and you immediately know where to turn. Really, come on, dude.
So 4 would have probably been the perfect ending because, they saw in the third one, what was the third one? It wasn't considered the third one. It was Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, where Vin Diesel shows up at the end. Mm-hmm. That could have explained the whole Han and everything, but possibly that probably was a good way to end it. But they're up to 9?
Yeah. And I think there's another spinoff coming too.
Yeah. So after 9, the last one is the final one, but they're cutting it into 2 videos. And I'm like, bro, they're milking this.
Yeah. They're
milking it.
It went from Fast and Furious to The Fast and the Furious to Fast whatever number to now it's just F9.
It's Fast 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
What else can you do? Race a submarine or something?
Yeah, again, if you just want some pure fast entertainment, lots of chase scenes, shooting and action and all that kind of stuff, okay, cool. They're good movies for what they are.
All right, so this is what I predict on the final one. Some kind of crazy criminal in the space station. They're
going to be with Elon Musk in a cyber truck on their way to Mars.
Something. They're going to be on the SpaceX rocket. Having to, stop the criminals in the International Space Station before they land into Mars and terrorize Mars and all that kind of stuff. And that's what's going to happen.
How long do you think it's going to take, or what movie do you think we'll first see a Cybertruck in and the new Hummer?
Fast and Furious.
You think so?
Well, that's the best. I would think with cars, the market, cars.
Yeah.
I
could see it. I remember Bad Boys 2 was kind of at the top of when Hummers were really big. I think they had a Hummer in Bad Boys 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but what video right now that's coming out that would showcase a Hummer electric?
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? I can't think of a video that would show the purpose of a Hummer electric. I'm surprised they're even doing that. I think it's a waste.
Well, GM's goal, I think it's by 2035, if I'm not mistaken, or 2030. They won't have any gas vehicles anymore.
Well, that's fine, but Hummer is considered the worst vehicle.
It was at one point, but that's their spin on it. Was it was known as being a gas guzzler. So now as an electric vehicle, it eliminates that stigma of being bad for the environment. Have you watched any of the videos on it though? It's got some pretty cool stuff in it, man. I'm not a huge car person, but
nobody can beat Tesla.
Yeah,
it's just so what, and I'm very biased against it, because the reason why is because you have these auto manufacturers like GMC, Chevy, Ford. Mm-hmm. They've been around for a while, and all of a sudden you have this one individual who was bold enough to do, that wasn't considered popular in the market.
Yeah.
They look down upon him. Now he's the
second wealthiest in the world.
He is the leading manufacturer of electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
They can't come to me and say, "Oh, they're making a better vehicle." No, they've been in the game way longer.
They're playing catch up.
They're playing catch up, and they ignore innovation. Yeah. These companies like that, they were stuck on this old business model. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And complacency.
complacency, and they ignore the idea of, like, global warming. It's not a problem, and like, I'm not going to give them any kind of credit.
Yeah.
Because they, honestly, in my opinion, they do not deserve it.
Yeah.
They could come out with a Hummer electric, they could come out with a Chevy electric, they could come out with a Ford Mustang electric. It doesn't matter. They can't compete with Tesla because Tesla changed the game. They're way farly superior, and it's made in America.
Yep. And you got Elon Musk at the head, who's got the quirky, his model spells sexy.
Yeah.
Like what other car manufacturer is going to choose the model numbers?
He's going to Mars.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't compete. It's just my opinion. They can't compete. And when I do buy me an electric vehicle, it's going to be from Tesla because they deserve it.
I know you're more of a car guy than I am. So what do you think about the Porsche?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But Porsche is different.
Yeah.
Because Porsche, they're known for racing.
Yep.
And, they're known for technology. They're always developing the Porsche. They come out with some really phenomenal cars before the electric vehicles. And I'm really excited what Porsche is going to do because they do innovate.
I can't think. Is it called a
I can't pronounce it.
Taycan, I think is what it is. Mm-hmm. The four-door. That thing looks mean,
good.
Man. Yeah.
I really want to see what Audi comes out with.
That'd be interesting.
If they somehow convert the R8 into a fully electric vehicle, that looks good.
Have you ever watched? I'm not into like NASCAR and all that stuff or Indy racing, but I don't remember where I stumbled upon it. But they have a whole racing circuit of that for electric vehicles. Have you ever watched that?
Oh my god,
it's insane, man.
It's so quiet.
But it mean like when they first take off, it's like and then they have to have all these special cooling fans and everything because now it's not a matter of the gas that they're concerned with. It's the batteries overheating.
You talking about Formula E?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're going into really touchy subjects. Like, I love electric vehicles, but you can't replace it. You can't replace it with Formula One.
Yeah.
Now, Formula One is just a different animal. You have, they're not V12s anymore, or V8s or V6s now. Tight tolerances within the motor. Everything it's pretty much fine tuned from every year, through all the regulations. They're just screaming by. Versus
the noise is I get you, but you got to think. If you're a Tesla lover and it's insanity mode.
That's what I'm saying. I love electric vehicles. I can understand the power behind it.
Yeah.
But the noise,
it sounds so weenie.
Yeah, it's like
they just need to do now is install speakers.
And
play footage of
that's the downside of electric vehicles, especially with what they do with the hypercars.
Mm-hmm.
There was recently a break of record of miles per hour on the lane. I think it was like it was some record within the hypercars, broke land speed records. And I was thinking, like, what's next?
That's usually out on the salt flats, right?
No, road.
Road, okay.
Road. It has to be on either private road or public road. It can't be somewhere that's not undrivable, I think.
Well, I just know, and I don't.
And that's why.
But a lot of them they used to do on the salt flats because it is so flat, and it's not a risk of it being on a road where they could essentially lose control.
Well, okay, so. It's a different scene. It's a different type of environment.
Yeah.
So on the salt flat, they probably would go in way faster. But when you wanted to break land speed record on public roads, it's a different idea because public roads everything's inconsistent.
Now, what's our local one here? Is it Hennessy Motors?
Hennessy, yeah.
And they held the record for a long time, right?
Oh yeah. Hennessy is a savage company. They make some savage vehicles. Hennessy, then you have Saline. I think Saline.
Mm-hmm.
Saline's one of them. They made gorgeous cars back in the days.
They used to have the Saline Mustangs back in the day.
They're kind of ugly now, but when you first saw them, they're like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the old school IROC Z, that's way probably before the Camaros and stuff, and it's like IROC, and you're like, whoa, those are cool. They say IROC on the side, but it's, now it's like, that's corny.
Yeah, there's some vehicles, that everyone thought was cool, but they kind of look corny nowadays. But
a good movie I watched the other day was Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah. Like it gives a really great backstory on that history.
You ever looked in the backstory of Le Mans?
That's another movie, right? With the
No, just the general race competition of Le Mans.
no.
Oh, the Le Mans racing history is just pure. It's crazy. It's insane. Especially during the during the eras where companies didn't give a fuck. You know, they were just making like regulation and everything was insane. Like, so to me, the golden era of Le Mans was like late 80s, early 90s, and towards the late 90s and maybe early 2000s.
Yeah. It's about a 20-year span-ish.
Yeah, that's when cars were. So one of the regulations was that in order to compete in Le Mans, you have to have a road version. So what would happen is that a lot of these companies would create these really hyper cars that would compete in the 24-hour Le Mans, and then they'll also produce road versions, and they'll be sold off into the public.
Yeah, so they use it as a marketing game.
Yeah, so that was like the true birth of an era where it created hypercars, in my opinion. And it was also the era of the proven hypercars. Ever since then, it's kind of been lost.
Yeah.
You know, I have this argument where most cars produced now that are proclaiming the hypercar scene aren't really proven. You know, because you have companies that's all they make.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like it's kind of wrong. You know, they should be in a competition where they have to be proven to be the best.
Yeah.
Not necessarily have to win, but they have to compete with the best.
Yeah.
And it has to be road version of that car.
Right now, they're just giving themselves a participation trophy.
Pretty much. And there's, I don't want to name them on the podcast, but there's some companies out there that they have no history of racing. They have no history of competition. They have no history of any kind of like proven performance. It's just a company with wealthy people putting X amount of dollars in a car and throwing the hyper sticker on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, people from Texas 2K can do the same thing because they're rolling in 1,000+ horsepowers.
Yeah.
And they're going well over, 200 miles an hour. Aren't technically those are hypercars? But no. Because you have wealthy investors throwing these,
They're buying their way in. They're not earning
pretty
their way
much. They're not proven.
Yeah.
And that's one of my little personal arguments I have with myself. Is like, these modern hypercars are not true hypercars. True hypercars are a part of the generation where they were only developed because the team wanted to compete, and it's just a road version of it. And Porsche has one, the 911 GT.
Yeah.
Mercedes Benz, the CLK GTR, I think it's called. Toyota had one.
What's the Mercedes Bacchus or something like that? It's like a sedan, and there's only a certain amount made a year.
I don't know.
My buddy had one, and dude, that thing was sick, man. Like
Mercedes can make some pretty good cars.
It's a $250,000 Mercedes, and whatever it is, like the accent color on the inside is yellow. So like the little stitching was yellow.
Oh, really?
The little lines on but the dash was all digital, almost all the way across the whole inside. But when I first got it, when I saw it from the outside, I was like, oh, it looks like a Mercedes sedan. And then he starts, get on the freeway and he just starts hauling ass, and he starts telling me like some of the specs on it and everything. I was like, what,
Yeah.
And it was insane, but I can never remember what model it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, going back with the Ford versus Ferrari, kind of sorry for going off.
No, it's all good, man.
But the guy on the movie, I forgot his name, but yeah, he was a savage. He was a savage race car driver. I think he's in my opinion, he's a Triple Crown winner.
He got cheated out of that win. Yeah.
But man. I don't know how, but I looked back in the back history. He's a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah.
I'll give him that title.
I think anybody who's watched the movie and didn't know the history prior would probably be like, yeah, he really got it, because he just did that to appease the owners.
Yep.
That one dude, really.
Pretty much. And then that was the birth of the Ford GT4. No, it's not considered the GT40, but the Ford GT.
The GT500 or
No,
or
it's
just
the what they call it, the Ford GT.
okay.
And that was, the GT500 is the Mustang.
Okay. See, I'm not a car guy.
That's a variant of. I mean, I know a little bit of cars, but car variants. But there's some people that know the ins and outs of every single car, and I'm like, that's not me.
Me either. Like, I've never like I like to have a nice vehicle, get me point A to point B, but I'm not dropping all kinds of extra stuff in my vehicle and spending all these upgrades and whatever. I'm just like, most of my extra money goes into my camera equipment and my gear for filming and, you know, drones and those kind of toys, you know?
Yeah. That's kind of how I was with when I started filming and stuff, you know. If I didn't do filming, I would have had a race car. And that's just being honest. I think I would have had a race car by then.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm glad I did filming.
Those cameras still hold value. That race car might not.
But yeah, but I wouldn't build it to sell it. I would just build it
because it's your toy.
Yeah, and it was something I always wanted. But like I said, I'm glad I did filming. Yeah, because filming can make me money.
Yeah, man, it's you know, I had some pretty lofty goals this year for filming. I started the year off by I'd say maybe like last year around October or maybe somewhere around there. I don't know. I started doing a video a day. And then I think it was January, I did 2 videos a day and was releasing them, you know, on
Are
YouTube.
These reacting videos?
Some of them were reactions, some of them were vlogs, and I'm going to completely pull away from the reaction stuff because I never really wanted to go that direction with my channel, but with being confined with quarantine and everything, it's like, well, what kind of content can you really create, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to pull away from the reaction and stuff. I might still do them occasionally. But then when we had that freeze, I couldn't film or upload. We had no power. We had no internet. We didn't have anything. And then that just kind of like started a spiral after that. It was like one thing after another. Things just kept happening that I couldn't really control. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break because it was getting overwhelming. And I had just started back to work and trying to produce the videos daily. It's a lot, you know, like even though the reactions are simple, just recording myself and then I can just do quick cuts and all that, the exporting and the rendering process.
Are you doing like 1080p or 4K?
I used to only do 1080, but I started doing 4K just because I'm not filming in 4K. I'm just filming in 1080 and then exporting in 4K. Just simply because so many people are starting to consume in 4K. Not as much concerned about it on a TV or a smartphone, but if people are watching it on a TV, I'm sorry, not on a computer or laptop on 4K, but if somebody's sitting there watching it on their TV and it's in 4K.
Well, you just gave out a little Easter egg, and not a lot of people know about it. So if you export your video if you film in 1080p and you export it out of 4K, you get that little crisp.
Yes.
It's kind of, I call it like the final version of 1080p. It's like that little extra crisp that makes it a little crispier.
Yeah.
And, you know, not a lot of people know about that. I'm glad you let people know that.
That's, and you know, going back to our Ghost Texas stuff, that reason we haven't finished doing that, and I meant to mention this earlier, is it's not going to be a single episode. It's going to be a 3-part series. Okay. Because we had so much content, right? And I'm already dreading the day that I have to actually render and export it because I think it's going to be like a 40-minute episode, 25, and then like an hour. And then that 1 hour episode, though, I'm like, God, it's going to take forever to export.
Yeah, for me, because I'm doing like...
These are running like an hour and a half, right?
Long as I've done almost 2 hours.
Yeah, I think we're
at an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So but I only do it in 1080p. I don't do the 4K. So if I do 4K, the 4K export. Now, I don't have a workstation. I'm just running off a simple MacBook Pro. Okay. And basic 1080p, basic rendering, all that kind of stuff, it's about 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. But if you do the 4K export...
2 hours, 3 hours.
Longer. It is longer.
How many, what's your RAM?
16.
Okay. I'm doing a Mac Mini with 64.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like mine's just a considered consumer. It's not a workstation.
Yeah. Like, I used the same iMac desktop up until last year. So I bought it in 2012 and finally upgraded last year. So I had it for like 9 years. I did upgrade the RAM because you were still able to do it at that point, but it was only like 8 gigs of RAM or something like that, or 16. I can't remember. But it just got to the point where my workflow, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I had a MacBook, and it was pretty well spec'd out as well. But it would start getting the fans would overcharge, you know, and I'm just like, man, it's just killing this thing. And I was like, it's time to upgrade. So I had considered another desktop Mac, but when I was planning to do the RV thing, I was going to build in like a full blown editing station, and I wanted mount monitors that I could mount. And with the Mac, iMac, you can't mount that anywhere. So if I'm driving, that thing's just going to fall over and break. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go Mac Mini and get 3 monitors, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working off now. Long run though, I'm actually glad I went with the Mac Mini, because it's if I did need to take it somewhere, for instance, it's like this big, man. You know, I just take it and plug it up wherever. Yeah. But I was also able to upgrade it more. With the iMacs, you can't do as much upgrades. Now they're kind of coming standard. Same thing with MacBook. I just got a new MacBook for my work computer, and there's no more upgrades. It's just like, this is what we have, and that's what you can pick.
Yeah, you kind of
can't build it.
Yeah, that's what Apple's doing. Like, you know, if you're not buying into their Pro line, you know, the idea of expanding the capability of your electronic is kind of going out the window, because now they're making their own processor chips,
which is, I've heard, has not been doing too well. Their M1 chip and their M2 chip,
it's just like any other first new product. You know, it's always going to have the lines, and they're always going to be MacBook haters.
Yeah. Well, what it is like companies like Adobe, for instance, who we rely on for all our editing. It's essentially would have to cause them to rewrite or reprogram a lot of their stuff to fit to these M1 chips, because it's not the same as just rolling it out on Intel or what's the other big one? But yes,
AMD.
Yeah. So now you're asking every company out there to create a third variation of their software.
But that's what Apple's not doing that though. So what Apple is doing is that they
want to push their Final Cut stuff and all that.
Yep.
You know,
so that's the one thing Apple is really good at. Once you're in the system, how well the system works. Because, you know, if you did all your video editing and their was it Final Cut Pro or something like that?
Yeah, I don't like Final. But that was actually what I learned first.
Yeah, but if you know all that system will work well, they're all in sync together.
Yeah.
That's what Apple's really good at. You know, third party, like you wouldn't need Adobe or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, looking within the next 10 years, they don't care.
Yeah, it's their ecosystem.
Yeah, you know, if you're within their ecosystem, everything will work flawlessly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's even little things like I had to get a different mouse because they didn't want to support the wireless mouse I use. I'm like, really, Apple? Really? Like, can you just not have to go buy another mouse? You know?
Yeah. So when because they recently released that they're going to get into cars.
Yeah. Well, they've been talking about that for a long time.
Oh, it's confirmed. Well, I think it's confirmed. Yeah.
So when I was my previous job with the defensive driving company, I manage all the social media and marketing and stuff. And so I was always looking for any kind of car content of any sort, just so we would have stuff to post daily. And the original Apple car that they did when they were like, we're not getting into cars, we're just doing this to do it, that was like 5 years ago. So if they're really truly getting into it now, I don't know. I mean, it's I could see it possibly. I think now with the electric cars, anybody could become a car manufacturer.
Oh yeah, they so this is just my theory behind it. So they didn't want to be the first to market. They wanted some other.
Let everybody else do all the R&D.
Correct.
And then you just reverse engineer it.
And then you had, well, not reverse engineering. Tesla. You know, they're releasing their patents.
Yeah.
You know, they don't care.
Let everybody else do all the hard work. And
put all the money in investment and, you know, let the market shift. Now, when the market finally shifts, you know, then I was like, okay, well, this is something we can also potentially get into, you know, because it makes sense. Apple CarPlay, you know, everything's working within the system. Everything's becoming artificial. You know, people talking trash about, you know, self-driving, which I think is which I think is the future. You know, it's something we're just not used to it today. You know, the idea of traveling to work an hour long or 30 minutes is going to be something that we're all going to look forward to, because That's an additional sleeping.
Yeah, either sleeping or for these ultra busy people, that's extra productivity time.
That too. So, but the problem is, and I think this is going to be the problem with Apple, is that Apple is notorious for repair shop capabilities. They hate them.
Yeah.
They don't want them. They don't want them around. They don't want them working with their products.
Yep.
Because it messes with their money. So when Apple gets involved with cars, it's going to be the same thing.
Yep.
Once you're in that ecosystem, and if you need any kind of repair or
you got to go to an Apple official.
Yes. And that's one thing I really hate to say, but it's kind of what you see right now.
Yeah.
If you're not going through an authorized Apple repair, or
then they're not going to cover your warranty, or your warranty becomes void after that or whatever.
Yep. Which
is kind of garbage.
Yep. And the rights to repair, it's a legit thing.
Yeah.
And third party companies should have the right to repair. You should have the capability to repair your items.
You own it.
Exactly.
You dropped $1,000 on a smartphone. You should be able to repair it somewhere for $50 instead of having to go through Apple for $200.
Exactly. Not only that, you're going to drop $1,000. Now you're going to be spending, what's the price going to be for an Apple card? Well, it's not going to be cheap. I can tell you that. It's going to be probably about between $50,000 to $100,000.
One of the things I'm really hating with Apple right now, right, is this MacBook I just got for work. The MacBook that my personal MacBook was the last year before the Touch Bar, right? This new MacBook has the Touch Bar. I don't like it, like the buttons that I'm used to, my quick key to see all the different things that are open. I can't even figure out so far how to even do that on my MacBook. But the thing that I really hate is they keep taking away more and more ports. So I don't even have an SD card reader on this MacBook, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the joke. There's a new commercial right now for this like Surface tablet computer. And the kid's like, well, this is why I like it better than the Mac, right? And so one of the things he shows is like, oh, look how many ports it has. Oh, look what you get with an Apple. And it's got like all these dongles hanging off, like I hate that part of Apple. I hate that. Like, I don't have an iPhone. I'm still Android. I actually hate the iPhone,
Yeah.
I love Mac for the desktop applications for editing and that side of it. But I still prefer Android because I just don't like the navigation. I don't like the flow of Apple. I don't like the limitations you have with an iPhone. I have iPads versus Android tablets solely because every time I purchased an iPad, I could never find a Android-based tablet that had a 512 or 1 terabyte of space on it. I think 512 is where they're at. So, but side tangent. But yeah, like there's things I love about Apple and some things I just absolutely hate.
Yeah, well, they're a company that's definitely going to be around for a long time.
They got more in the bank than most companies, like solid cash flow.
Than a small country.
Yes.
They literally have more money than a small country.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Some of the American tech companies is just insane.
I love it because it's America.
Yeah.
All right, man. So we're an hour and 43 in the podcast. You want to cut it off right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I made the mistake, and I'm going to go ahead and say it on camera. I should have gone to the bathroom before we started. This whole time I've been sitting here, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Well, luckily now, we're in the podcast.
Hey, this was fun, man. I know you're just getting this rolling. Congrats. I know I watched some of your earlier ones, and you were saying just getting used to being on camera was tough. So I know that too. I remember my true first vlog no longer exists on YouTube because it was so embarrassing that I was just like, I took it down, right? And I read like a year later, I was like, this is my first actual vlog, But no, I'd love to come back again.
Yeah.
And wish you all the success with this, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely, man. You definitely come back with some more scary stories. I'm definitely interested in seeing the footage when you release it of the actual, the son talking to the father and stuff.
Yeah. So after we finish here, I'm going to show you the trailer that we made back in October for the jail. Because we were trying to release it in October. I do have a completed trailer that I'll share with you off camera.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that.
Cool, man.
Well, guys, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next one.